darling. Good. Right, Annie. So Annie, I've known Annie for, I was trying to work it out and I just don't actually know how long I've known you, but a lot of years. And I first met you working at uni teaching, which you've now left to do to go full-time songwriting again. And I've always been a massive fan of your music and your writing, but it's weird when I start to think about sort of like doing a video like this, because I think about the fact that I know you as a friend, and I almost separate you as an artist from as a friend, which is insane, really. But I guess probably our most sort of levelled or our most balanced thing that we have shared is our love of Catherine Kaywood. So, but you've always. This is the first video of these that I'm doing on the channel, and one of the main reasons that I wanted to ask you to come do is just purely because you've been nothing but supportive and helpful and insightful, and just so encouraging, and particularly in the realm that I'm least comfortable, and you always push me gently and supportively to do stuff that I've never felt comfortable doing, and we can come at music from very different angles, where I'm super prepared and hyper controlled, and whereas you're just let it happen, and I've learned so much from you on that. And your writing has always kind of taken lots of different parts, and I think that's probably the thing I'm most interested in sort of exploring today, is what it really means to you to be a songwriter, and what form that takes. So the first time I came across your stuff was with Hysterical Injury with Tom, so bass and drum duo with vocals, and it kind of I'm going to put links to all the to stuff in the description of the video, but it's kind of got a bit, it's much more raw than the stuff that you're writing for yourself now, even though there's actually a parity between them. There's that kind of folkiness, that pastoral kind of folkiness that's in there, and then as a solo artist, for want of a better word, but you've also worked and written with the Penelopes and Alonso, is that how you pronounce it? Alonso, yeah, okay. So what I want to, that's sort of my take on it, is that I've asked you because I've asked you to come on here because I just want to delve a bit more into sort of what it is you do, and see how you can help. However, this first video I want to learn a bit more about you and how you tick. So the first one is, if there was a song, any song in the world that you wish you'd written, what is it and why?
See, I was looking at this question. This is, it's that multi-million question that can't be really answered in one. But funnily enough, I did, when I released my first solo album, Bloodletting, in 21, I did a radio show. I was a guest on Simon Tucker's Transmission.
Okay.
And he asked me to sort of make a mix, but I chose, the theme was to put together songs I wish I'd written.
Oh, cool. How many?
I think there was probably about 6 or 7.
Okay.
And so some of those include Low and their song That's How You Sing Amazing Grace.
Okay.
I always wish I had written that from the minute I heard it.
Okay, what is it about the song that makes you wish you'd written it?
It's so absolutely full of vibe in such a sort of pure form that it's completely captivating every time you listen to it.
Right.
It's astonishing. It really is.
Do you find new stuff in the song every time you listen? Does it morph depending on how you feel? Is it one of those songs that kind of changes its context for you? I am erased when I listen to that song. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Taken away completely.
I am erased. I am no longer. The self is no longer.
Yeah. Okay.
I sink into the world of wow.
It's magic.
Oh, magic.
Absolute magic.
Which I believe that's what it's all about.
Agreed. I'm getting that.
Yeah.
But I wish I was getting it. But I get that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key behind it all, isn't it? Is it starts with some magic for the person writing it, and if that's there, then it might translate to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And this one does for you. It does.
I mean, a lot of Low songs do that one particularly, because it just so. It's the way it glides in and opens out the vibe. It's so utterly sublime. There's quite a lot of songs I wish I'd written, and a timely one. Well, yeah, a really timely one is Nothing Compares to You.
Oh, gee, yeah, right, yeah. Prince, though.
Yeah. but I also wish I could sing it like Sinead. You know,
There's-
without Sinead, that song, of course,
I
the singer
completely
in the
agree.
song. You know.
Yeah, that's a good example, actually, isn't it? Because
I don't
Prince's version's great,
Yeah, but it's not.
but it's
hers.
not. It's sorry, I'll rephrase that.
Yeah.
Prince's version is good.
Yeah.
Hers is great, truly great.
Yeah.
And I think that music video
Yeah.
is just
Yeah.
I mean, even after all these years watching that, there's it transcends the words and the notes and the physics of it all. It transcends that, doesn't it? And you're right. So it's not just the song, right? So it goes beyond that. That comes down to the performance.
Yeah.
And we'll come on to that, I think, in a bit, because that's kind of where I want to steer this. Really, is what the fundamentals are to you. So my last flippant question would be, if you could go back and listen to any album again for the first time. So you've never heard it before, and you get to listen to it again for the first time. What would it be?
Now, again, I've been racking my brains about this one. This
Too
is a
many.
seriously hard question, but I think, given the time I was looking at the question and thinking about it, my choice is Philosophy of the World by the Shags.
Okay, that's not one I know.
It's... When I first heard the album, my life was changed.
Okay, right.
Yeah, my perspective...
How old were you? Where were you? What was it that...
probably about 30?
Okay, so...
Maybe 32?
Okay, a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Last year.
Yeah. During lockdown. Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the purest, most authentic, I hate the word authentic, the purest form of music I've ever heard in my life.
Wow. Okay.
It's utterly sublime. It's amazing. It's so pure and so mind-blowing, and it's so enlivening for the mind and the body and the soul.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
So we keep coming back to this, even in those two questions, you come back to this idea that it isn't, there isn't anything really you're suggesting, and it doesn't surprise me, and it probably wouldn't surprise anybody that isn't a commercial songwriter specifically, that really for you the most vital elements of connection with the music comes down to that, like the emotional context and the content of that song, okay, or the body of work or whatever it is. Okay, let's move on to your experience and your journey of writing music then. So let me ask you the most obvious question, really, as far as I'm concerned, which is why do you write music? Why do you write songs?
Yeah, I actually don't know how to answer that. I actually, Kate, was thinking it again about it last night a lot, and I was like, well, why do I? And it's almost like why don't I don't
Oh my God.
Why would I do anything else?
Sorry, you construct sentences
Yes.
for a living. So
why would I do anything else? It's
Yeah,
more
okay,
likely the
yeah.
question.
Yeah, why would
because
you not
when
sing? Why would you not
When
write?
I try to do something else, my attention isn't fully absorbed. I think when I'm writing music or writing or in the writing zone, and it tends to come out as songs.
Right.
My attention is focused.
And you don't find that anywhere else, like completely focused.
Yeah.
So, again, this will be something that I want to sort of look into more as from my perspective, a performer thing. But we're talking sort of like elements and conditions of flow state, right? That kind of thing where you're so fundamentally absorbed that time becomes elastic, and you're almost not your physical boundaries don't exist anymore.
And very much in a sort of this is my being. This is my being. I'm being what I'm
here to do.
Well, that sounds terrible.
No, I don't
whatever
think it
that
does.
sounds like.
Maybe I should put a caveat at the beginning of these videos that just says, anything that's said in these videos stays within the boundaries of YouTube and shouldn't be, please don't try this at home. But
there's all sorts of sort of biases, I suppose. I come from a musical family. I was raised on music. It sort of was in my ear. I think when I first kind of had real curiosity moment was when as far as I can remember, is when I started to sing along with the Hoover when my mum was hoovering when I was tiny. 18 months old.
Ah, this is where the fascination with drone comes from.
And sounds and
yeah,
harmony.
okay. So were you
I'd be
pitching against
harmonising.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the fascinations that still is with me today is, one, I'm awake in a way I'm never awake when I hear a sound, because I'm kind of like, and I go and I make a melody or some harmony with it, and it's the change that's really inspiring and interesting. So when you change a note, or you change a chord,
pivot something against it. Yeah, okay.
And you
wow.
get that. It's like, that's what I am looking for, and that's why I write.
That's fascinating, because that is genuinely fascinating, because I enjoy that as a listener. So it's always been, when I was working with Justin Goodall a lot, because he's so good with theory and stuff, that I'd constantly be saying to him, what's happening, here, and he'd explain what was going on. Seeing the mechanics behind it was fascinating to me, but it stems from that idea of change. I'd always
sometimes not, like, just, this is this thing I love about noise music, which is it's immersive, that immersive kind of, and then you find your way through it. But you can sort of sit in a world of sound, but also in a song, it requires a change at some point, or not. But the change is when that change is really good. It's and that's kind of something that gives you that tweak.
Yeah. So I mean, just to sort of clarify then from my perspective, and I think it's obvious, but I kind of want to clarify, is that. I think one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to you was the fact that you have all these techniques and these skills, and because you've taught it, and you've taught me, and you've shown me stuff, and I know you know how to analyse how it's done. There's a danger with anything that has technique involved in it, where I'm very conscious of trying to write some songs from an exercised perspective, but then when I'm writing in the first person, for want of a better word, about stuff that's important to me, it's not an exercise anymore, and they're the ones that I'm very dubious about showing people, because so it all comes down to feelings, doesn't it, at the end of the day? So, and that's fundamental to art, isn't it? Is that you, if we, for want of a better word, we're putting it out there in the public domain as creators, we're trying to get the audience to feel something that we intend them to feel. There's an intention behind what we're writing, and that can be chords and structure and arrangement and melody and all these kind of things, and the words, obviously. But that's what lies at the core of it. And you were saying, just to sort of clarify it for me, it's that change, that feeling, something shifting of a feeling or an emotion.
I'd say that's a technique. It's a fascination of mine, that.
Okay.
It's a fascination of sound, and I think in answer to the sort of why do you write songs, it's the fascination of sound and how it can change, harmonise, vibrate. So ultimately it's actually about the vibe. And in terms of an audience, I'm not so bothered about that. I'm not so bothered about that, and that sounds a bit arrogant, I suppose. I have been like, I have put things out and think, I hope it's I hope people either enjoy it and stay away if they don't like it. They're not mean to me. But now I don't mind anymore, because I feel like the process is actually about finishing something and giving it to the world.
Yeah.
Whether the world hears it or not is how it ends up, and that is how it's meant to be. It's no longer mine.
Yeah. So you've released it into the world.
It's gone.
You freed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't have so much of an attachment with those things anymore. In fact, I'm probably on to the next thing, and new ideas have already come.
That's one of the things I've learned from doing the YouTube videos, is that when I started, I was very precious about them, and cared about what happened to them when I hit publish. And over the last 4 years of sort of putting so many hundreds of videos out, is the minute I hit publish, it's the last thing on my mind. I occasionally will look at the stats and things on it, but I'm on to the next one. I move on, and I think that that's something that comes through practice, isn't it? So it's by doing it a lot that you start to not care less about
it's
it.
Not it's what I'm always intrigued in what what people say to me, but
Yeah.
I think that's an organic thing, and I certainly wouldn't expect it. And I also certainly wouldn't want to control how somebody reads or listens to a song. That's
Right.
that's up to them.
Okay.
And that's a respected, you know.
That's cool. Yeah, that again I think shows a level of trust in what
I mean,
you're
if people
doing.
really want to know what I meant by something, they can ask me, or they can ask me my intentions. But I always refer back to the wonderful director David Lynch. Whenever he's asked about his films and what they mean, can you tell us a little bit about that, David? And he goes, no, I can't.
Make of it what you will.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I
It's up to
actually
the.
think that's the respect to have of people listening, that they're gonna hear what they want to hear. They're gonna hear, and that's up to them. You
Yeah.
know, I can't control that.
No.
At the same time, I can, to the best of my ability, satisfy myself with the articulation of the idea. So I wouldn't put out something that I'm not 90% satisfied with.
So do you work hard on stuff? Do you spend a lot of time refining things and
Yeah, I do.
really kind of polishing and changing and
Yeah,
okay.
in editing. Yeah.
Lyrics, words.
Lyrics are
or,
the bastards.
yeah.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely.
So okay,
Yeah.
so let's get onto that a little bit. So when you are writing, when you are writing words and you're trying to express something, whatever that may be, however it started, because I know you and I have spoken about this before, the idea that often a song, when it's finished and goes out, maybe not where it started. Maybe it started off very personal,
Yeah.
but through the process of writing, it becomes something a little bit broader or less personal, maybe, or more of a general feeling, or whatever it might be. So, sorry, maybe we should go back through the process a little bit. So, you don't have a fixed way of writing, right? Or do you tend to go about things the same way?
The things that are the same then.
Yeah.
Are improvisation,
Okay.
trying as to the best of my ability to be as receptive and full of awareness as possible,
Okay.
so that when I'm working on an idea or asking an idea to emerge, or looking for an idea to pull out the air or what have you, I'm absolutely ready to receive it.
So how do you do? So in terms of, do you record whilst you're coming up with these
Not
ideas?
always,
No.
not
Okay.
always, no.
So do you mean just consciously then?
Yeah, totally.
You're
consciousness.
receptive. So it's not, you're not forcing anything. You're just letting it tumble out
To the best of my ability.
Yeah. Okay. And that takes practice.
Yeah.
And okay. So then let's say is this with a bass or a guitar or piano?
It's with multiple instruments.
Right, okay.
I suppose in the last couple of weeks, because I've been working 9 to 5 solely on my work, I have been using my acoustic nylon guitar that my dad gave me when I was 15, and I've been just using my voice and maybe sometimes my vocal effects unit for various things, but actually I've really been leaving that alone.
Okay.
And I've just been kind of sitting in the quiet place, looking out the window, just kind of, getting into that place. I intuitively know when something starts to excite me, and that's when the record button goes on.
Right, and you hit record and then you go back to that state again.
I'm in.
Okay, so once you've got that instigator, that idea has begun, and you know you're going somewhere, and it starts to formulate itself into. I know that you write in a variety of ways. Sometimes it's very abstract. Sometimes it's very verse chorus. But once you know where that is, and you've got words written, and that process starts to come to the point where you're thinking, okay, this is a song now. I have a verse, I have a chorus, or whatever. Once you've got some words down, what is it that do you have to sing them to know whether they're working, or what makes you change a word around or edit?
Really
you said about editing.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I am sort of, I am of the camp that melodies and scrambled eggs comes to,
Paul McCartney.
Yeah, definitely of that. So I'll be like, yeah, amazing. I'll be like that.
Okay.
A word might come. Vowel sounds always, yeah, and I'll be absolute rubbish.
Yeah, this is what you got me to do.
Yeah, right. To do. And the more I've been in that process of, the more I've trusted it, and that's always worked. I feel like, for me, that the sound of the vocal helps to iron out a syllabic thing.
Okay. So a rhythm.
A syllabic rhythm.
Yeah.
And I always think with melodies and lyrics that you have to remember. I always did this intuitively, but it wasn't until I had to teach a module on lyrics that I identified it and thought,
Okay.
That's a useful tool.
Okay.
And then when I researched it, I realised that Pat Patterson talks about, Andrea Stolper, they teach at Berkeley, they talk about this as well. The vowel sounds have to lay really well over a melody, because that's the things that people hear.
Okay.
And so I call it like this. It's like dressing a table beautifully.
Yeah.
And you put your placement, you put your plates and in the places and all the rest of it, and you're looking for balance, or a paint, any analogy.
Yeah.
So you dress your melody, and you dress your vowel sounds over, you drape it over your structure. You sort of drape it over. You can imagine that.
Okay.
You can imagine how your vowel sounds are the melody, and that has to be draped over the structure of the table. Beautifully, and you fill in that colour then.
So if you're trying to say something...
I'm mixing metaphors there.
Not at all.
Yeah.
That's right, you're allowed to do that. How do you then marry that with the fact that you're trying to say something? Does that inform the words, or does that inform the... So there's a dichotomy there, isn't there?
There is, and there's many schools of thought about lyrics and what they should be.
Okay.
I think for me is when I'm improvising, an image will come.
Okay.
An image will come, and it'll be... Say it's I've been working with a lot of images about that are the dawn of a day.
Oh, right, okay,
that
yeah.
image has just been recurring these last few weeks. That's the image I've kind of been working with. It's filtered into quite a few different places. The image of dawn. And it has a particular feeling. There's things in that image, and you kind of have to extract it into the song. Now, you could refer to Pat Patterson or Andrea Stolper about setting a scene, bringing in a character, opening up a conflict, resolving that conflict in a story by the end of the song, sort of thing. But I think
so being more prescriptive about what
you can be like.
Yeah, okay.
You can
which people do,
yeah,
right? So a lot of
and a lot of successful. I mean, Nothing Compares to You absolutely does that.
Yeah. So there's a story or a statement within the song.
But it also does sound with lyric. It's a musical device. Lyric is a musical device in that song.
Yeah.
Nothing compares. That vowel sound is what you remember.
Those the openness of. Yeah. Okay. So.
It's that lovely open, because they're the open. If you think about it, the open voice, the open heart.
Yeah. There's a parity, isn't there, between the tonality and the character of the vowels.
It's a musical tool, the word in a song.
So
that's why it's called a lyric.
Yeah. Okay.
And not a poem. But of course you could of course you could put poems to music. Patti Smith did that. I'm not going to argue with that. Of course you can.
No. But that's an interesting... I mean, I know I want to talk about this more in...
I guess I'm talking very subjective.
No, I don't think you are. I because this is where the problems that I've found are, and I want to talk about this in another video. But so maybe I'll briefly touch on this now, but I want to delve into this a bit more. I struggle in certain bits of writing songs, particularly in verses. I've never been comfortable with anything. The bridges and the choruses I feel much more comfortable with, and it's all of it that I don't like. But it's the rhythm of the words and the sound of them, and I think it's because I'm trying to tell too much of the story in the verse, and actually when I read back through what I've written, they're actually pretty nice poems. Mm-hmm. But when I come to sing them over the chord progressions, I don't like them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting you highlight there's a difference there.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference. Now, I'm not saying right or wrong to either. Somebody might be more interested in how poetry fits with a musical thing. That's absolutely valid. Of course. But I think I think it's really useful to think about lyric as a sonic device, because we are working in music.
Yeah.
You know, there's harmony, there's pitch, there's rhythms, there's space, there's all, you know, there's all of those things. So it's really useful to think of a word in its sonorous form.
Okay,
You know? So
that's massively eye-opening, because I know you got me to the challenge that you got me to do, but that's something I think I didn't realise that was because a poet doesn't think about the sonic qualities of a word so much as the rhythm of how they fit together, whereas a lyric is different.
Yeah, and of course there's debates about this. You know, you can, and when you write a poem, you are thinking about syllable rhythm, you're thinking about pentameters, and you're thinking about the chemistry of words, of course, and you do think about these things as well with lyric. But a sort of crude distinction is, one is a musical device, one is a literary
device.
And I guess, you know, there's the bridging of those gaps, and there's also a really useful thing where when you're writing lyrics and you're getting to the point where they're nearly ready, you know, and you're editing, it's useful to go back through to see how it marries, you know, prosody, how it marries with your melody in a linguistic sense. So are the commas in the right place, for example? You know, is there a pause there before you go into the next thing? That can also really aid a word within a melody.
God, it's absolutely that's completely made me think to pivot actually and be a little more basic actually when I start. And try and find those sounds and let that inform the word, and then, okay, cool, right, that's enough for this one. I think that's kind of completely shifted my. Well, you know, in a really good way. The whole point of doing this is to try and pull out something each time with this, you know, and to sort of try and just break it down a little bit more for myself, because as I've said before, working with people like yourself and working with songwriters, it seems to come so easily. I know it doesn't sometimes, but I don't see the workings out. You know, you know, when I go to the studio, I get to play the drums on a track that someone's written. I don't know whether it's taken them 6 minutes or 6 months or 6 years to write that.
Well, probably all three.
Well, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, that, you know, that's the thing with, again, going back to the drumming thing. You know, when you go and do a studio session and somebody says, "Oh, we booked you for a whole day, but it only took you 2 hours," it's like it didn't. It took me 25 years for it to take 2 hours.
Exactly.
So, you know. Thank you so much for that. That's given me a lot to think about, and I need to go away and think about it now. So thanks, Annie. I'm going to make another video sort of pulling my stuff apart a little bit, but that's a great start. This is not the end of this.
My pleasure,
Thank
James.
you so much.
Thanks for having me.